Hello everybody and welcome back to the Ketogenic Fasting Project. This is video number 33. It's basically another book review. I just review books for the information they contain. I'm not really interested in any any other features of the book. So if you want to know how well written it is or how entertaining it is, this may not be the perfect book review for you. This is more about what's in it and how it pertains to my interests in diet and fitness. So, naturally, when I saw a book called Eat Meat and Stop Jogging, I had to check it out because I've been on this ketogenic fasting experiment. I look at it as like a long-term experiment. That's why I call it a project. And like a lot of people who get on a ketogenic diet, they see the appeals of a carnivore diet and they start going in that direction. The simplified diet, the fact that you find out that there's a lot of plants people commonly eat that don't agree with you or seem to be causing some sort of problem. And in a way, a carnivore diet's kind of the ultimate reduction diet where you just eat meat and drink water. You take everything else out of your diet. And for me in particular, I think it's useful because I'm I'm trying to cure or overcome or permanently put into remission some autoimmune issues, particularly psoriasis, because that's the one that's still lingering. The arthritis is gone, and I basically don't have any more allergies. But I got a little bit of psoriasis going on, and so I'm working up an experiment that I'll do a video on soon. But this is back to the book because that's what for. So, anyways, I like this book. Uh, it echoes a lot of the information that you're going to find in a lot of keto books or a lot of low carb books or certainly zero carb books. So, I would say that there's not a lot of new stuff if you've been through a lot of books like I have. But if you're new to it, this certainly hits a lot of the high points. Um, the author is very direct and to the point. That's a big selling point right there. It gets right to it. I think this book was actually under $5 on Audible, which is always nice. And it's short. I like long form stuff. This is 2 hours and 38 minutes. Um, I know a lot of people they don't have the time or they just don't have the attention span or whatever, the opportunity to listen to long form stuff. So a short book of 2 hours and 38 minutes should be a hit. Lots of people can sneak that in, and I mean, if it takes you a week or whatever, 2 weeks, big deal. A lot of the books I listen to are 20 hours or whatever. I think China study was almost 19 hours. And I know if I think a book like Good Calories, Bad Calories is got to be way over 20 hours, probably over 25 hours. So the author also does directly address some of the real obvious questions of like how can you just live on a meat diet? I mean, he gets right to it about why all the things that we've been told over and over again seem like truth and seem like eating meat and not jogging would be a bad idea. So it doesn't take much to convince me. I'm biased in the direction of this book from the beginning. So there you have it. He talks about why we believe so wholeheartedly in all kinds of stuff that probably just isn't true. The more you hear it, the more you think it's true. So, the old calories in, calories out, eat less, exercise more. He refers to a term called cognitive fluency, which, helps us believe these things are true, even if there's no basis in fact. And of course, we know a lot of the studies kind of pointed in the direction that meat was causing heart disease or cancer or whatever. But and a lot of the subsequent studies don't support that at all. And in fact, if anything, the big example is the change in diet that's led to heart disease, obesity, and cancer becoming more and more common. So essentially, common knowledge is a common problem. And it's kind of back to what I've said in previous podcasts or videos, that we have to kind of unlearn things. He talks a lot about the flawed information, specifically, particularly about the understanding of calories. I mean, we think a calorie is a calorie, and you can't mess with the laws of thermodynamics. But he talks a lot about how calories are measured. You know, they measure calories essentially by burning them in a little machine to see how much energy they put off. But that's not necessarily how a human body is going to utilize the energy. So there's not necessarily a one-to-one there. And then as I've mentioned before, just because you put a calorie in your mouth doesn't mean it's absorbed and used. And then how your body uses it, or how efficiently your body uses it, is all over the place. I mean, that calorie could be shunted into long-term storage as fat, or it could be burned up right away. You could expend a tremendous amount of it staying warm, or you could very sparingly use it and to keep going over a long period of time. He gets into the myths about saturated fat. He explains hormone levels and gets into the gender differences, which I think just about everybody can appreciate. He talks a lot about the problems of too much cardio and the strain on the heart, and he touches on some of the famous runners that died early of heart failure, or he had heart attacks and died. Talks about the free radical threshold, which I would love to go back and add that to my threshold video. But that's something every time I explore a new book, I find somebody else talking about a new threshold, like thresholds for carbohydrates, fats, proteins, and now your free radicals. Your body does have the ability to counteract free radicals to a certain extent. And he talks about pH too, how much. And I sadly enough, I came across this too with when my friend Ceci was dying. She was trying the alkaline foods and alkaline water and all that, but it turns out it's almost impossible to change like your blood pH with your diet. It's very, very difficult, and it really doesn't seem to have any bearing on cancer. So I heard that, read about that, and then the more I look into the current research, I realize that you just really can't touch it. So he does talk about longevity, the length of telomeres. Uh, that's a budding science. So I I I try to take any of the information on it with a grain of salt, but it probably will eventually be a holy grail that's sorted out, where we're going to know that doing this shortens the telomeres and shortens your life, or your ability to successfully regenerate and repair yourself. And then other practices will lengthen those telomeres and protect your genome. So um, it's got plenty of science, and it's got plenty of practical information in it. It's got stuff to look forward to, and it's got stuff you can do today, which I like. And he talks about the efficiency of exercise and doing things faster. I mean, those guys out there running ultra marathons, more power to them, but they're probably doing their bodies more harm than good. On the other hand, it's a great laboratory to see what type of diet fortifies your body or makes your body more able to repair itself, manage inflammation. When you hear guys like Zach Bader talk about inflammation before and after races and stuff like that in his recovery period, I think it's really useful, even for people who are never going to run an ultra marathon race. So I think it's very encouraging information, and I don't want to talk anybody out of pursuing their dreams of running 100-mile foot race or longer, but it certainly isn't something I think I would do because I thought I was extending my life. I don't think they think that either, but not this day and age. So this book, Eat, Meat and Stop Jogging by Mike Sheridan, encourages you to read another of his books called Live It, Not Diet. So I haven't read that book yet. I'm definitely going to put it on the list. I may even get to it pretty soon here. So I'm looking forward to see what else he has to say. And I think it's a good idea to kind of break books up into smaller pieces. The more books I cover, the more I appreciate that. Sometimes the books you get to the end and you can't really wrap your head around the whole thing, and you kind of need to go back and compartmentalize, which is harder to do with an audiobook because a lot of times you're not really seeing section titles or chapter titles or whatever. You just have a long string of what looks like chapters, and they're oftentimes just numbered. Some books come with supplemental PDF documentation and charts and stuff that you can review, and some don't. So in this case, the very short Eat, Meat, and Stop Jogging I enjoyed quite a bit, and it really did whet my appetite to read this next book, Live It, Not Diet. So anyways, I recommend this book. Go for it. So thanks again for watching and or listening. I hope this helps you. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel. Stay inspired, stay curious, and if you're having some sort of health issue, whether it's physical or psychiatric, I hope you keep exploring and reading, and I hope you find an answer to what ails you. And I suspect most of us are going to find that in somewhere in our diet. And don't forget, there's a powerful tool called fasting out there that might help you too. So dive in and learn all you can.